definitely. There's a collective vision among all of us who work for the environment. People's passions lie in different areas, but it's really that cohesiveness that binds us all together and makes us be able to work together and have really successful outcomes.
Yeah, and I just think it's such a nice industry to be working in. You know, any other kind of industry might be working in a job where the company's all about profit, but that's not what it's about when you're working in the environment. You're working with people that genuinely care about the environment. It's not about companies making money, it's about looking after the land, and that's the kind of attitude that everyone has. So
yeah, you definitely don't have to justify why you're doing the things that you do because everyone's on the same page, everyone gets it, and that's a really nice feeling and, you know, really makes what we do very rewarding.
Well, I manage a program called the Iconic Species Program, and this program is all about conservation of WA's threatened species. So we're trying to organise programs to conserve animals like the black cockatoo, western ringtail possum, chuditch.
I run the community engagement program, which involves dealing a lot with the community, which is fantastic. I love it. Do a lot of work with the Aboriginal community specifically, and really try to involve and immerse their culture and their ways of doing things into what we do in natural resource management in the more contemporary sense, because they're very, very similar. We do a lot of work with, with people who spend their time volunteering, dedicated to environmental projects. We do a lot of work with a whole range of stakeholders, and it's just about, I guess, dealing with different people in different ways for different purposes.
Just the history of being growing up in Bunbury and with an Aboriginal family, so we're always out bush, looking after bush and stuff like that. So.
Right.
More like that caring for country. So when I was 17, a job opportunity came up with Calm back then, but now it's Depot.
Yep.
And it was a 12 months training doing fauna surveys, re-veg work, coastal re-veg, and also mapping out a camp area on the Leschnell Peninsula in Bunbury.
Right.
And that sparked my interest because it was a love of country and actually working on country.
Yeah.
So from when I was 17.
Well, what we're doing is we're working with the recovery teams at the Department of Environment and Conservation.
Yep.
We're also working with landholders and other stakeholders in the community, and we'll get together, we come up with best plans of action and work out ways to implement those, or work out what actions we need to take to help those species, and then we just go.
Basically I always had a passion for the environment and always felt like I wanted to give back and make a difference from a young age. So I took that through my studies at high school, and I did biology, and then when I went to university I did environmental biology, and I also did politics because I was interested in the human side of things and how people interact with the environment. And then I got a job as a consultant and have worked for local government, and now I work for the South West Catchments Council as the community engagement facilitator.
I ended up doing another year training course as a heritage officer.
Right.
So that was my love of Aboriginal sites. Did that for a year and got a job in Canberra and was doing conservation and management plans for Aboriginal sites all around Australia.
Wow.
So it was a mixture of the calm type of traineeship that I learned, fixing up country, and also looking at that interaction with Aboriginal sites. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
It's a term for what we do, really it's environmental management is what we do, but it's all about looking after our natural resources. Calling them resources is probably not the most appropriate thing all the time, because there's so much more than that. They're part of our culture, they're part of our well-being, our mental health. We're surrounded by a natural environment, and particularly down here in the southwest, it's so precious and so unique. So what natural resource management is all about is making sure we can maintain and protect and conserve and manage all of these beautiful bits that we live in, that make the southwest home. Because I think a lot of people use the southwest to recreate, and they love it and they appreciate it, but they don't realise just how fragile it is, and
the impact on it.
Yeah, that's right.
Excellent.
A lot of the things with the conservation of the fauna species is to do with cat and fox control.
Oh, right.
So they're pretty big baiting programs.
Right.
But looking at better, more efficient ways to do that sort of baiting and to control feral animals, or just the key threats, I suppose, that's what we're looking at. So
Right.
you've got cats and foxes, you've got things like fire regimes and how that's managed in the southwest.
Work in environmental sciences, it's all about volunteering. During your degree, if you can get out even in your first year of your degree and volunteer with DPAW, volunteer with Southwest Catchments Council, volunteer with your local coastal community groups. It's really important. If you finish your degree and you've got a piece of paper and no volunteering experience at all, then you're really going to miss the boat. There's the Perop Ecology Centre down the southwest with DPAW. You could be involved in doing work with woylies. You find that when you actually take on some sort of volunteering, it opens other doors. We've had young staff members who have volunteered with DPAW and ended up diving up in the Montebello Islands, doing underwater transects and quadrats with them. We've taken on staff who have started off as a volunteer, and they've been brilliant, they've been great, and as a result of that they've ended up getting a position temporary with Southwest Catchments Council, and then ultimately going on to permanent staff.
Yeah, I did some stints in volunteering, mainly to do with sort of marine science. I was really interested in that, and where I could give some of my time, I was interested in that, developing my career further, and also the connections you can make through volunteering. There are always people you can call back 5 years later and ask them a question, and having those connections in this industry is, I think, really important. That's the key to successful environmental projects is people working together, and volunteering just gives you so much experience, and you can volunteer in different fields, and then you can see where your real passions lie as well.
It's such a good way to get your leg in the door if you're really keen to have a career, especially down here. It's a little bit more difficult to find a position than a bigger place like Perth. So I think, volunteering it actually helps you work out whether it's what you want to do as well. You might do 2 weeks of it and just think it's the bee's knees, or you might think, oh, I actually don't really think this is for me, and that's a good thing, because you're allowed to change your mind. That's okay. But yeah, if you are really committed to natural resource management and having a job in this industry, then you just get to know people, and you start to build your knowledge base, your practical knowledge base, before you even get to an employed position, and it helps you just build those workforce skills. You learn a little bit about what it means to be a big adult in all those kinds of things. So it's got lots and lots of advantages, and it's a good way to meet other people, other kids that have similar interests and all those kinds of things. And yeah, I can't recommend it highly enough, and it's fun at the end of the day. You get to hang out with people like Gibbsy with Captain Coast Care, and spread brushing at the beach, and plant seedlings, and it's rewarding.
Yeah, and you make lots of contacts which may ultimately be responsible for you getting employment.
Exactly.
Majority of the work that I did as a project officer was working with the Aboriginal community, Noongar community, and looking at projects that looked after country. So once again, it was like back into the kind of like re-vegging of important places, Aboriginal sites. But also ensuring there was a cross-cultural type of awareness within the organisation about the importance of Aboriginal land to Aboriginal people in the southwest, and how we can assist in protecting some of them sites by looking after country.
We work across we call it the SWCC region.
Yep.
It's a pretty large region in the bottom of the southwest of Australia.
Yep.
For the coastal area, that covers from Mandurah all the way down to Walpole.
Right.
And we go in quite a long way as well into the wheat belt. So it's a massive area with heaps of different people to speak with and get in touch with.
The crab slippers feature in one of our TV advertisements, where there's a man and his wife tells him you don't need to fertilise in winter because you're going to hurt the crabs. So instead he puts his feet up, puts his slippers on, and he's pretty happy with that because he doesn't have to do any maintenance during the winter months. And also the crabs win out as well because they don't have nutrients entering their habitat and they don't suffer, so they're nice and healthy as well. Well, Crab Friendly Lawn is part of our Save the Crabs Then Eat Them campaign, which is an urban nutrient behaviour change program, which is a bit of a mouthful, but basically we want to teach householders how sometimes their fertiliser practices on their lawns and gardens can impact our waterways and the marine habitat that lives there, such as the crabs.
Basically, volunteering is the name of the game. If you can spend your holidays, obviously you need to earn some money, but get out and work with different maybe government or non-government organisations. Volunteering in the field, people will get to know you, you'll make a range of contacts. These will lead on to other possible volunteering positions. Don't forget your local Coast Care group. Do some volunteering with your local Coast Care group. The shires, see if you can do some volunteer environmental work with shire environmental officers. Just make every one of your holidays a different volunteering experience. If you can't for some reason get a volunteering job, then maybe you could go and earn some money and then go up to the Eco Centre up at Broome and work on turtle banding and turtle population volunteering work that they do up there. So even if you have to pay for it, get out and actually get experience.
I was brought up by my family to always respect the environment. Always been curious about the environment. I grew up on a relatively big block of land, and I was always encouraged to climb trees and go out to the bush and go to the beach. I think I had some pretty good science teachers when I was at school, but it's just something that's always interested me and that I found fascinating. And I think when you really enjoy spending time outdoors, that's what makes you happy. It just seems an obvious choice to work doing this sort of work.
Great.
For Bluey, can you tell him if he's in any form of danger? Can you yell out and let him know if he's in danger? Yeah. Oh, who are you?
Hey kids, hey captain, I'm June dude. I'm young and I'm cool. When I go to the beach, I do whatever I want. It's great.
It's I don't think you get involved in this particular industry unless you really genuinely care. You meet people who work in this industry and you've instantly got a connection. They tend to be very warm, very giving people. I think we all need to really take a good hard look at ourselves and what we're doing to the environment on a day-to-day basis.
You get to somehow conserve species, landscapes, fun part is you get to go to amazing places, get really in the heart of, you know, natural areas. You get to have awesome experiences like fieldwork. You know, you get to be hands-on with some like fauna trapping or, you know, flora surveys.
I think about 12 or 13.
Really?
Yeah. Mum, we didn't have TV, but Mum kept buying the Calypso magazine, Jacques Cousteau's magazine, and it was pretty amazing to see people just making a living and diving and doing research on marine ecosystem.
Right.
And that's why I decided to want to do oceanography. No, I was at boarding school most kids go to boarding school in France, but we had extracurricular activity and we had a sort of supervisor that was into the environment, and we became part of an environmental club, which is about recycling and trying to improve the environment in the area. And so, yeah, we got involved into that. Yeah.
I've been passionate about the environment for as long as I can remember. I grew up in a really wild and beautiful place, and
Where was that?
from a young age saw mining companies tearing it apart, and always thought, not on my watch, they won't. So yeah, it was kind of a given that I'd go to uni and have a go at protecting our environment.
Great.
I guess we were doing greenhouse effect at school and just found it really interesting, and guess I felt like it would be great to do something to combat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So make a difference.
Make a difference, yeah.
I think if you want to do any environmental work, I knew that I had to do science. So as part of our baccalaureate in France, we had to do maths, physics, chemistry and biology as majors. And so I did that with a purpose to do science in the longer term.
Right.
But it made me try a lot harder at maths and science and physics, because I knew that I would need that to be able to become a scientist, essentially. And art is a beautiful way of communicating, and literature is really important, but if you want to take on science, you need to get in there and learn it. If you want to fight fights about the natural environment and how it functions, how it should or shouldn't function, yeah, science is pretty important.
Biology and geography were always two of my favourite, and I guess that's what's led me to be working in this industry.
Right.
I did a double degree in a Bachelor of Science in Environmental Biology and a Bachelor of Social Science, Geography, Sociology, Environmental Management kind of units, yeah.
It wasn't a job, it was an expedition with Cambridge University, but it was up to 3 months in the remote islands of the Seychelles, and we went to this island called Aldabra, which is a marine park, which is just north of Madagascar, and we swam with black-tip sharks, and they were everywhere, and there was giant tortoise, and that was just the most incredible experience. And also we found one day we couldn't figure out why this little piece of bottleneck was moving around, and we looked inside, and a hermit crab had decided to use that as his shell, and he had used this bottleneck as his shell, and he was walking around very proudly, and I think it was one of my highlights. But we went to the next island where the sharks are not so used to humans, and there was a lagoon that was locked in because of the low tide, and we wanted to do some work across, so I started to wade waist high across the lagoon, and I had my reef boots on, but suddenly we saw all the little shark fins coming right toward me, and I had all the scientists screaming to tell me to lay flat so they wouldn't nibble my feet, and I had pigtails that day, and I've never seen someone running so quickly to get to the other side of the lagoon. It was one of the funnest experiences.
Probably the really big planting projects that we've had. So after negotiating all the relationships with farmers and getting all the paperwork in order, sometimes you get to go out there and actually do it. And a couple of years ago we had up to 40 volunteers, and it was just great fun. Absolute chaos, but great fun as all these young people came out and we planted 24,000 seedlings, and it just felt awesome to be getting those plants into the ground where they needed to be. Yeah, and we just had so much fun doing it, so that was definitely a highlight.
I'd say go for it. If you love the outdoors, if you love travel. It's a really good career for that.
Yep.
You can see some amazing parts of the world, and biodiversity conservation is only going to become more and more important as threats are increasingly growing, so it probably is somewhat a growing field. Volunteering, I think, is great to do. You'll get so much more out of it than you expect. You meet some amazing people, you go to amazing places, and it really is a good lever when you're looking for a job.
Yeah.
You know, to say that you've done certain things before.
Yeah.
And to show that you're willing to do something for nothing.
Yeah, well, I was all passion as a kid and not much dedication. And a wise person said to me, you've got to get the highest level of education that you possibly can if you want to be taken seriously. And so I have worked so hard. I now have a master's and I've done that while I work. But yeah, take the opportunities you can to study science, study maths, get a good solid English behind you. There'll be plenty of report writing. And yeah, get out and find where you want to be. You might study marine biology and discover that you hate water. So make sure you get out, volunteer, find what you're passionate about, find what you're good at, and then combine that with your education. And I think that's the best advice that will get you where you want to be in life.
I am now a senior scientist for South West Catchments Council, and my role really is to work with academic institution and research institution to bring the latest science so that we can operate using the latest knowledge for environmental management practices on the ground. So it's a very interesting job working with universities, CSIRO and different researchers. It's pretty good.
Make sure you get out, volunteer, find what you're passionate about, find what you're good at.
So did heaps of volunteering work.
Volunteering, I think, is great to do. You'll get so much more out of it than you expect.
Talk to some of your elders, because that love of country will actually come out through them elders' words, and you'll start to actually realise that your identity is in that country.
Yeah, I did some stints in volunteering, mainly to do with sort of marine science. I was really interested in that, and where I could give some of my time, I was interested in that, developing my career further. And also the connections you can make through volunteering. There are always people you can call back 5 years later and ask them a question. And having those connections in this industry is, I think, really important.
Basically, volunteering is the name of the game.